Hey everyone. When I first heard about equine therapy, I picture like a movie montage, like someone running their hands through a horse's mane,
Right.
maybe whispering their problems in its ear.
Yeah.
But this deep dive into Rolling Hills Recovery Center's new program, it's so much more.
It is. And what's really interesting here is how Rolling Hills is addressing that feeling of shame and guilt that often prevents people from even seeking help in the first place.
Mm.
And they're doing it through this partnership with Hope's Promise.
Okay, so addiction recovery, that's a sensitive and complex issue. And horses are part of the solution. I'm trying to wrap my head around this.
It's all that the way that horses interact with us, right?
Right.
Horses are prey animals.
Mm.
They're hardwired to sense danger, pick up on these subtle cues in their environment.
Right?
And what's more dangerous than a human, right, with unpredictable emotions. So they become incredibly attuned to our energy, to our anxieties.
So they're like emotional mirrors
Exactly.
reflecting back to us what we might not even be aware of.
And because horses don't judge, they provide this incredibly safe, non-judgmental space for people to confront those raw emotions without fear of reprisal. And that's really where the healing can begin.
That makes a lot of sense because if you're carrying around all that shame and guilt, it's hard to open up, right?
Yeah.
And do the work of recovery.
Absolutely.
It's like the horse is saying, hey, it's okay, let your guard down here. I'm not here to judge you.
Maureen Coltis, the founder of Hope's Promise, she says it beautifully in the press release.
Yeah.
She talks about how horses have this incredible ability to create a bond with people and how that bond can lead to these aha moments, these breakthroughs that can be so crucial in breaking free from addiction.
So it's not just about petting ponies.
No.
There's real therapeutic value in this, but what does it actually look like in practice? What does an equine therapy session at Rolling Hills look like?
So picture this. You're at Hope's Promise Farm, and it's a peaceful setting. You're surrounded by nature, and you're introduced to a horse, maybe one like Chief Justice. And under the guidance of a trained therapist like Brianna Bailey, you begin interacting with the animal.
So what does interacting actually entail? I'm picturing myself brushing a horse's mane, but I'm guessing there's more to it than that.
Well, grooming can be part of it, but you also might be leading the horse through an obstacle course, working on communication trust exercises, or even just observing the horse's behavior
Interesting.
and noticing how your own emotions are reflected back to you.
So if a horse is being particularly stubborn, for example, that could be an opportunity to talk about how you deal with difficult emotions in your own life.
Exactly. And that's where the therapist's expertise comes in. They help you draw those connections to see those metaphors in the horse's behavior and relate them back to your own recovery journey.
So it's like having a therapy session, but instead of sitting on a couch, you're interacting with this, like, a 1,000-pound animal that can sense your every emotion.
Yeah. And what's fascinating is this approach isn't meant to replace traditional therapies like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. It's meant to complement them.
You mentioned CBT. For those of us who aren't familiar with therapy jargon, could you explain what CBT is and how it differs from equine therapy?
Yeah, so CBT focuses on identifying and changing negative thought patterns and behaviors. So it's very structured, very goal-oriented.
Okay.
Equine therapy is more experiential. It's about tapping into those emotions and developing self-awareness through that horse-human bond.
So it's like CBT gives you the tools to recognize those unhelpful thought patterns,
Right.
but equine therapy provides a safe space to actually feel those emotions and work through them in a new way.
Exactly. And that's what's so brilliant about how Rolling Hills is approaching this. They're not saying equine therapy is this magic bullet, right? But it's another tool in their arsenal, one that might resonate with those who haven't found success with traditional talk therapy.
And it seems like they're getting positive feedback already. The press release mentions both Laura Riley, the clinical director, and Mike Levy, the executive director, are really enthusiastic about the program.
Yeah. Laura Riley talks about how equine therapy complements their existing treatment methods by adding this powerful experiential element to it. And Mike Levy emphasizes how it fosters self-awareness. He states that working with horses offers clients a mirror to their own behaviors and emotions.
That's a powerful image. The horse as this mirror. It's not about the horse fixing anything. It's about reflecting back to us what's already there and giving us a fresh perspective. And it's fascinating how they're incorporating this into a holistic approach, considering the mind, body, spirit, social connections. You could say they're going all in on this.
They are. That's what makes Rolling Hills so unique. They're committed to treating the whole person, not just the addiction. They understand that recovery Involves addressing all aspects of a person's well-being.
It's not just about stopping a harmful behavior. It's about addressing the underlying issues and providing the tools for lasting change.
Exactly. And that's where the long-term impact of equine therapy becomes really interesting.
Long-term impact, that's the golden ticket with any kind of treatment program. What does the research say about equine therapy's staying power?
The research is really promising. One study, it was published in the Journal of Substance Abuse Treatment. It found that equine-assisted therapy significantly reduced drug and alcohol cravings
Wow.
and PTSD symptoms in veterans, even months after the program ended.
So there's measurable lasting change happening. This isn't just like a subjective I felt better kind of thing.
Right. And the study I mentioned, it also found participants, the equine therapy group, they had lower levels of cortisol, which is the stress hormone,
Right.
compared to the control group. And we know that managing stress is absolutely crucial in preventing relapse.
You mentioned cortisol and stress, and it makes me think about how, simply being around horses can be calming, even for someone who's not in recovery. Is there something to that, scientifically speaking?
Yeah, horses have this incredible ability to regulate our nervous systems just by being near us. Studies have shown that when we interact with horses, our heart rate, our blood pressure, they decrease, and our brainwave patterns actually shift into a more relaxed state.
It's like they have this calming aura that just washes over you. No wonder people love spending time with them.
Right. And this physiological shift into a calmer state, it's especially beneficial for those in addiction recovery, as it can help them manage cravings and triggers more effectively.
This is all starting to make sense. Are there any challenges faced by those in recovery that horses seem particularly well suited to address?
That's a great question. Addiction recovery often involves rebuilding trust. Trust in yourself and trust in others. And horses, being prey animals, are all about reading body language, right? They're sensing intentions. And they'll respond differently to someone who is anxious or aggressive compared to someone who is calm and assertive.
So you can't really fake it with a horse, can you? They're going to see right through that.
Exactly. And that's why there's such incredible teachers when it comes to communication, boundaries, and self-awareness.
Hmm.
Clients start to realize that how they show up in the arena with the horse is a reflection of how they're showing up in other areas of their lives.
That's fascinating. It's like the horse becomes this living, breathing feedback mechanism,
Yeah.
helping you see those patterns in a whole new light.
And as clients start to develop those healthy communication and boundary setting skills with the horses, they often find that those skills begin to spill over into their relationships with other people.
So it's not just about the individual's relationship with the horse. It's about how that relationship can translate into healthier, more fulfilling relationships with other people.
Right. And that's a key component of long-term recovery, right?
Mm.
It's about building a strong support system, learning to trust others, and developing healthy relationships.
It's all connected. And it's like that quote from Mike Levy about horses being a mirror. They reflect back not just our individual emotions, but also how we interact with the world around us.
Exactly. And that brings us back to Rolling Hill's holistic approach. They're not just treating the addiction in isolation, they're addressing the whole person, mental, emotional, physical, and social well-being. And that's what makes this program so promising.
It's like they're acknowledging that true healing happens on multiple levels. It's not just about abstaining from a substance, it's about cultivating a life that's worth staying sober for.
Yeah, it's about rediscovering your passions, rebuilding your self-esteem, and finding a sense of purpose and belonging.
Speaking of belonging, one thing that stood out to me about Hope's Promise is their emphasis on community. They've been relying on volunteers since 2012, and that tells me they've cultivated something special.
And that sense of community is crucial for those in recovery. It provides a sense of support, belonging, and purpose that can be so healing. It's about knowing you're not alone in this journey.
And having a safe and supportive environment to practice those newfound skills, the communication, the boundaries, the self-care that's invaluable.
It's like having a training ground for life, where you can experiment with new ways of being and relating to others, all within the context of this incredible bond with the horses.
This has been so enlightening. But with all the talk about the benefits and the science behind equine therapy, it's important to acknowledge that it might not be for everyone. Are there situations where it might not be the best fit?
That's an important point. While equine therapy can be incredibly powerful, it's not a magic bullet, and it's not necessarily suitable for everyone. For example, individuals with severe phobias of horses might find the experience too overwhelming.
That makes sense. I guess like any form of therapy, it's about finding what works for you, right? What feels safe and supportive.
Yeah.
What about physical limitations? Are there certain physical abilities required to participate in equine therapy?
That's another great question.
Mm.
And, accessibility is really important. And while some activities might require a certain level of mobility, a lot of programs like those at Hope's Promise offer adaptations and modifications to accommodate individuals with physical limitations. It's about working with each person's abilities and creating that safe and supportive experience.
So it's not one size fits all. There's
Yeah,
room for personalization,
exactly.
adapting to individual needs. That's good to hear.
And that's where the expertise of these therapists at Rolling Hills is really important. They're trained to assess each client's individual needs and tailor the therapy accordingly. It's not just, okay, everyone in the arena.
Speaking of expertise, how do I know if an equine therapist is legit? Is there like a certification process?
That's a great question to ask. Just like you wouldn't see a therapist without proper credentials, you want to make sure your equine therapist is qualified
Right.
and experienced.
So where do I even start? What am I looking for?
So look for therapists that are certified by reputable organizations, like the Equine-Assisted Growth and Learning Association, eGala,
Okay,
or the Certified Horsemanship Association, CHA.
got it.
These certifications ensure that the therapist has undergone rigorous training in both equine management and mental health practices.
Okay, so it's not just about being good with horses.
Right.
It's about understanding the therapeutic side of things.
A qualified equine therapist isn't just a horse expert. They're skilled at facilitating those breakthroughs and helping clients connect the dots between their experiences with the horses and their recovery.
That makes me think about the horses themselves. Do they need special training? Are certain breeds better suited for therapy than others?
Now, you're thinking like a true deep diver. It's not just about the therapist. The horses are partners in this.
Partners with benefits, it seems like.
Right. And while there's no one best breed for therapy, horses with calm, patient temperaments and a sensitivity to human emotions are generally preferred.
Makes sense. You don't want a horse that's easily spooked in the middle of a therapy session.
Exactly. The horses at Hope's Promise, they are carefully chosen and trained for this work. They even undergo temperament assessments, so it's like a personality test, but for horses.
Wow.
This ensures that they are comfortable and equipped for this unique type of therapy.
This has been such an eye-opening deep dive. It's amazing to think that something as ancient and powerful as the bond with a horse could have such potential for healing.
It really is. And it speaks to something so profound about our connection to the natural world, something that I think we often lose sight of in our busy, technology-driven lives.
It's like we've been so focused on the latest high-tech solutions that we've kind of forgotten about the wisdom that's out there in nature.
Absolutely. And what's so exciting about this is we're only just beginning to scratch the surface. There's so much more to learn and so much potential for healing.
Well, I, for one, am feeling very inspired, and I hope our listeners are too. If this deep dive has piqued your curiosity, I encourage you to learn more about equine therapy and the work being done at Rolling Hills Recovery Center. You can find more information on their website, and who knows, maybe this could be a turning point on your own recovery journey or a way to support someone you love.
It's been great exploring this with you. And remember, even if equine therapy isn't the right fit for you, there's a world of possibilities out there when it comes to healing and connecting, sometimes in the most unexpected places.
Beautifully said. And on that note, we'll leave you with this final thought. In a world that often feels chaotic and uncertain, sometimes the most profound healing comes from rediscovering our connection to something bigger than ourselves. Whether it's the bond with a horse, the peace of nature, or the support of a loving community, there's always hope. There's always healing.